भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः पंकजनाभाय नमः पंकजमालिने नमः पंकजनेत्राय नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रिये। Hare Krishna. Reading from chapter 10, Canto 10, chapter 84, the chapter entitled The Sages' Teachings at Kurukshetra, verse number 2 up to 9. इति सम्भाषमाणासु स्त्रीभिः स्त्रीषु नृभीरषु āyayur munayas-tatra kṛṣṇa-rāma-didṛkṣayā iti sambhāṣamāṇāsu strībhiḥ strīṣu nṛbhir 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 āyayur munayas-tatra kṛṣṇa-rāma-didṛkṣayā. Matajis, iti sambhāṣamāṇāsu strībhiḥ strīṣu nṛbhir āyayur munayas-tatra kṛṣṇa-rāma-didṛkṣayā. We will read the next verses, number 3, 4 and 5. They are all coupled together. Dvaipāyano Nāradascha Chavano Devalositah Viśvāmitra Śatānando Bharadvāja Gautama Rāma sa-śiṣyo Bhagavan Vasishto Gālava and Bhṛgu Pulastyah Kaśyapo Trischa Mārkaṇḍeya and Bṛhaspati Trita and Ekata brahma-putrās tatā Agastya and Yājñavalkya vāmadeva-ādayaḥ. The translation of this verse is: as the women thus talked among themselves and the men among themselves, a number of great sages arrived there, all of them eager to see Lord Kṛṣṇa and Lord Balarāma. They included Dvaipāyana, Narada, Chavana, Devala and Asita, Viśvāmitra, Śatānanda, Bharadvāja and Gautama, Lord Parashuram and his disciples Vasishtha, Gālava, Bhṛgu, Pulastya and Kaśyapa, Atri, Mārkaṇḍeya and Bṛhaspati, Trita, Ekata and the 4 Kumaras, and Angira, Agastya, Yājñavalkya and Vāmadeva. Verse number 6. Tān drishtva sahasotthāya prāgasīnā nṛpādayaḥ Pāṇḍava kṛṣṇa-rāma-didṛkṣayā praner murvi Viśvāmanditān. Translation: as soon as they saw the sages approaching, the kings and other gentlemen who had been seated immediately stood up, including the Pandava brothers and Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. They all then bowed down to the sages who are honored throughout the universe. Verse number 7. Tānanarchur yatha sarve saharamo chuto archiyat swagatasana padhyargyam malya dhupa nulepanai. Lord Kṛṣṇa, Lord Balarāma and the other kings and leaders properly worshipped the sages by offering them words of greeting, sitting places, water for washing their feet, drinking water, flower garlands, incense and sandalwood paste. Verse number 8. Uvacha sukham asinan Bhagavan dharma guptanu sadasastasya mahato yatavacho nṛṣunvatah. After the sages were comfortably seated, the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa, whose transcendental body protects religious principles, addressed them in the midst of that great assembly. Everyone listened silently with rapt attention. Verse number 9. Shri Bhagavan uvacha aho vayam janma bhrito labdham karsnena tatphalam devanam api dushprapam yad yogeshwara darshanam. The Supreme Lord said, now our lives are indeed successful, for we have obtained life's ultimate goal, the audience of great yoga masters, which even demigods only rarely obtain. There is a purport here. Despite the great privileges the demigods enjoy as administrators of the universe, they rarely see such sages as Narada and Vyasadeva. How much rarer then must it be for earthly kings and mere cowherds to see them? Here, Lord Kṛṣṇa, identifying himself with all the kings and others who had assembled at Samanta Panchaka speaks on their behalf. Om Ajnānatimirandhasya Jnānāñjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadhati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas. Actually, I am not qualified to speak on this elevated topic, but doing it as a service. So please bless that I be able to speak something that makes some meaning. Please, Guru and the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. So the topic is the sages' teachings at Kurukshetra. This is the name of this chapter, the 10th canto, chapter number 84. In these verses from number 2 to 9 that we just read today, three important points just come out striking. The first is, the galaxy of sages were eager to see Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. The sages themselves were highly worshipable personalities, but when they have gathered there, come to perform this solar eclipse at Kurukshetra, they are very eager to see Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma. So the first point that we would like to touch upon today is how important it is to have eagerness to see the Lord, and what is the power of that eagerness. The second is the rarity of the association of saintly people. Such exalted souls like Vyāsadeva, Narad, and so many galaxy of names that we read. Amazing. All coming together at one point of time. Even if one of them comes, is as powerful as the sun. Such illustrious personalities they are. But when a galaxy of them are coming together, you can imagine what would be the combined influence of their presence. So the rarity of association of saintly people. And the third point is how to receive them, how to reciprocate with them, and the importance of guest reception and the etiquette of guest reception. So let us briefly touch upon these points. First we shall just discuss about eagerness. The eagerness of a soul in this material world to reconnect to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the foundational principle of pure Krishna consciousness. The very purpose that we are in this world is, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, that we have envy towards the Lord and we want to enjoy separately from the Lord. So these are the two qualities, or these are the two basic reasons why we have been cast into the material world. So having come into this material world and having sufficiently experienced the torture that one has to go through in this material life, if one comes to their senses and is able to understand that this is not the place for me, I have to go back and be back with my Supreme Father, that eagerness is the first step to go back to Godhead and to come out of this entanglement. So Krishna's reciprocation, which is our only hope, is a result of that eagerness. And its degree depends on the intensity of our eagerness to attain God. Krishna very clearly says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. To the extent to which we surrender unto the Supreme Lord, to that extent He reciprocates with His mercy on us. That is our only hope, Krishna's reciprocation. Otherwise, on our own effort, it's very difficult. The process to fan and nurture that spark of eagerness is sadhana bhakti, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So eagerness, enthusiasm is what gives life or essence to all the activities of sadhana bhakti. Without that eagerness, simply the rituals are nothing more than a dead body. Rituals are important, but without the essence, without that eagerness, in themselves they fall flat. It is like empty vessels make more noise. So there are people who engage in very pompous worship, but when that eagerness is missing, one is able to see it is all big show, but there is no essence. That doesn't help. And this ritualistic worship is actually sometimes that degenerates, and instead of taking people on the right path, it actually takes people on the wrong path. What can a dead body achieve? So even in our daily sadhana, as devotees, we have to take care to nurture that eagerness. That small spark which is there is the most important thing which we should never neglect. From the Shastras we know there are 9 processes of devotional service. And this entire process of devotional, this entire range of devotional service is meant to just fan that spark and make it grow into a flame that can engulf our desire for material happiness, burn it out, burn out our karmas, and ultimately deliver us back at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Of course, we know what are these 9 processes. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. These are the famous words of Sri Prahlad Maharaj. So hearing, chanting, remembering the Lord, serving, engaging in friendly dealings with the Lord, worshipping, glorifying the Lord, and ultimately surrendering to the Lord. Of all these processes, the first one is hearing, Shravanam. And the Acharya for Shravanam is Parikshit Maharaj, as we know. He has taught us by example how to attentively hear Harikatha, how to have eagerness for that Harikatha. Hearing fans the spark of eagerness. Srimad Bhagavatam is the best topic to hear out of so many literatures that are available, because it is known as Amala Puran, spotless Puran. in Canto 1, verse numbers 1 to 7, they describe his eagerness to hear. Parikshit Maharaj's eagerness to hear Lord Krishna's pastimes. And he is pleading Sukadev Goswami to describe in detail. In verse 13, he says, I have taken a vow not to drink even water or eat, but just listen the nectar from your lips of Harikatha. Only that nectar from the lips of your lips of Harikatha can sustain me. I will drink that nectar. This is how he expresses his eagerness to hear Harikatha from Sukdev Goswami. And while rituals are important, the essence must never be diluted. That is what we always have to bear in mind. There are several examples to understand this, stories that devotees have heard time and again. Nevertheless, it becomes useful to repeat some of them just for our deeper understanding. So there is this famous story which in ISKCON people have definitely heard it quite many times over. This brings out very clearly how one has to rise above ritualism to spiritualism. So there was this lady whose husband had gone to battle. He had gone to fight a war, and naturally a lady is most concerned about the life of her husband. And war is an arena where life is at stake. So obviously she was desperately praying. So what she did was, she took a photograph of her husband, she garlanded it, she worshipped that, and she was desperately offering all forms of worship to that photograph, praying for his welfare, praying for his well-being, praying for his safe return. And while she was very ritualistically and systematically doing this on a daily basis, one day, while she was engaged in the process of this kind of a worship, and it was quite an elaborate process she was following, it was taking quite some time to complete that, there was a knock on the door. She said, whoever it be has to wait. And she continued her worship. There was a louder knock, and there was her husband calling out. He's telling her, I am back, please open the door. And she is telling, just wait, let me complete my worship. So here we see that the very purpose for which she is worshipping, he himself has come, but she is so ritualistically attached to her process of worship that even when he is personally calling out, she is still asking him to wait. And she is telling, let me complete my worship. This is the danger of getting entangled in ritualism and not understanding the essence behind the rituals. This is again signified in the famous story of the Brahmana Patnis. We all know how Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma, while wandering in the forest with their cowherd boyfriends, one day they all became hungry. And the boys came and told Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa, please arrange for some food, we are very hungry. So then Kṛṣṇa recounted, he says, there are some Brahmanas here and they are engaged in worshipping, doing yajna. So I think you should go there and specifically tell them that Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma have asked for something to eat. Please give us something to eat. Again, the Brahmanas were so deeply engrossed in their ritualistic worship that they said, this is no time, our worship is still not yet complete, and now we cannot give you anything, you have to wait. They say, but Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma have personally sent us, they are hungry, we are all hungry, we please beg you. They said, no way you can get anything now until our worship is complete. They come back and they tell Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa says, okay, go to the Brahmana Patnis who are there preparing all the food. You can go and ask them. As they go and approach them, the Brahmana Patnis say, who is it? They say, Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma want it. Immediately they are overwhelmed with emotions. They say, the Supreme Lord, that Kṛṣṇa about whom we have heard so much, that Kṛṣṇa who sticks a peacock feather on his head, that Balarāma who is white as a cloud, oh God, let us serve them, let us serve them. And they just collect all the offerings that they have. It's not even been offered. And they just said, yes, yes, we are bringing it to them. And they are giving it all and they are carrying it on their heads and they are following the boys. So, they have broken all the rules and regulations. But they have understood the essence. The essence is, the whole thing is meant for Kṛṣṇa, and when Kṛṣṇa is personally come, they are more than happy to give it. The rules and regulations are brushed aside. And then when the Brahmanas, they learn what a glorious opportunity they have missed, they curse themselves and they say, to hell with our regulations, to hell with our ritualism. And then they surrender unto the Supreme Lord and they accept their wives back. This is a classic illustration from the Shastras. And there is another one, small incident, when His Holiness Bhaktitirth Maharaj visited this temple and he was giving a lecture. So he made a very pertinent point in this regard. And he explained what was his strategy for book distribution. So he would go out and he has gone to really dangerous places, risked his life, a glorious example. And Bhaktitirth Maharaj said what he would do was, he would hold out a book with Krishna's picture in front of the person to whom he wanted to distribute the book. And he would not say anything, just look at his face. What was his reaction? If the reaction was favorable, he would persuade him. But if the reaction was repulsive and indifferent or unfavorable, envious, he would not waste his time and he would go on to the next person. He said, this was my strategy. So it was a very pertinent point. So the point is to identify that spark, to identify that essence in a person and then fan it. Of course, it is not that people who don't have it should be completely neglected. The idea was to give the time more favorably. We are unqualified to see the Lord, but out of His mercy, He descends in the deity form so that even in that unqualified state, we can see Him. So if we understand this principle, we will develop eagerness to see the deity form of the Lord, never considering the deity to be any different from Him. Sometimes people ask, why go to Tirupati? Why go to Pandharpur? Why go to the Holy Dham? The Lord is in our own heart. In our heart He is there as Paramatma, and in the temple He is there as deity. This is what we have to understand. Well, we can ask such people, why do you go to foreign countries far away where your children have settled down to meet them? All the love for them is there in your heart. Can you not be satisfied? There it's a different story. They want to personally meet them and reciprocate with them because of their love. It is that love, it is that eagerness to meet the Lord, even in His deity form, that needs to be properly understood and groomed so that one is able to progress nicely in one's devotional life. The Lord reciprocates with your eagerness, sincerity and faith. That reciprocation is His mercy and gives fulfillment to the heart. Another simple point to understand this is, there is a famous saying which says, hunger is the best pickle. Unless you have hunger, you will not feel satisfied and happy on eating food. Unless you are eager, you will not feel fulfilled on having His darshan of the Lord. It will be reduced to a formality if you don't have that eagerness. Just coming to the temple, you may consider that it's a mere formality. But one who has the eagerness to see the Lord, they are so happy, so fulfilled. And that happiness which you derive is actually the reciprocation of the Lord. In the absence of that eagerness, darshan of the Lord is not a priority, but an act of convenience or one that is time permitting option. That is how people say when you invite them, please come to the temple, please have darshan, please come to the satsang. They say we don't have time. Why? Because that eagerness is not there. Hare Krishna. So this is this aspect of eagerness. The second point, which we considered was the rarity of association of saintly people. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this has been gloriously brought out, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse number 54. It's a very famous verse, everybody has heard it. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kai, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hai. In the purport of this verse, it is mentioned, lava means 1/11 of a second. So you can understand 1/11 of a second of the association of a pure devotee, of a saintly personality, can impart such powerful influence on the life of an individual. It is capable of doing that. And this verse is verse number 54. Verse number 51 of the same chapter says, Mahat kripa vena kona karma bhakti naya Kṛṣṇa bhakti dure rahu samsare nahi kṣaya. Unless one is favored by a pure devotee, one cannot attain the platform of devotional service, to say nothing of Kṛṣṇa bhakti. One cannot even be relieved from the bondage of material existence. Again, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 12, verse number 12, it is explained, Jad Bharata is informing King Rahuguna. He says, without taking upon one's head the dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee, one cannot attain devotional service. Not by severe austerities, penances, by gorgeous deity worship, or strictly following the rules of varnashrama or studying the Vedas. The prerequisite is to take the dust of a pure devotee upon one's head. The devotees actually descend into this world to give that connection to the fallen souls. They come actually to retrieve the fallen souls. And in recent times we have the splendid example of Srila Prabhupada himself. There was this famous episode that was described once on the 50th, to celebrate the 50th Golden Jubilee ceremony of ISKCON. At Juhu we had one nice gathering, and there, I don't recollect the name of the person who is now posted as, I think, governor of Meghalaya, Assam or some such state in the northeast. So this person was actually living in the Juhu temple. And he was staying in the quarters that were there for the tenants behind the temple. And at that time, the structure had not come up. Prabhupada's quarters were not ready. And the devotees were staying in Juhu. They just had some tin shed and some very simple kind of accommodation. And there was this one gentleman who had the beautiful photo of Madhvacharya in his house. So as Prabhupada was meeting people out there, he saw this beautiful photo of Madhvacharya, Sripad Madhvacharya, and he told him, I would like to come to your house. So he went there and he learned that he was actually in the Madhva Sampradaya, that gentleman, and he said, I would like to come and stay for some time in your place. He was very happy. He was a very pious gentleman. He welcomed him. And Prabhupada chose to see his visitors in that house. So the devotees immediately set up their office just outside that room. It was just a small, simple room. And visitors started queuing up outside that. But the unique feature of this was, soon they called a barber to sit outside there, because the visitors who were coming to meet Srila Prabhupada, many of them were so impressed by their interaction with Srila Prabhupada that quite a few of them decided to shave their heads and join up. So just to facilitate, a barber was kept ready at hand. So you can see from this example that Srila Prabhupada was such a pure saintly person that just by conversing with him for some time, those who had the eagerness in their heart, by that interaction, they came to such an important decision of their life, that to surrender their life to the movement of Srila Prabhupada and to take up devotion as a full-time vocation, occupation. Prabhupada, by his magic, he turned the hippies into happies. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. That is the greatness of this great soul. Also in the Adi Puran, we have this very famous verse where Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna. He says, Ye maye bhakta jana partho namaye bhakta te janaha mad bhakta nam cha ye bhakta te me bhakta jana tapa mataha te me bhakta jana mataha. That means, he says, those people who call themselves as my devotees, I do not consider them as my devotees. But those who are the servants of my servants, mad bhaktanam cha ye bhakta, those who become the devotees of my devotees, I consider them to be my devotees. And in my opinion, the Lord is very clearly emphasizing there. So we understand that connection to the Lord comes not directly, but through the medium of the saintly personalities, who specifically come into this material world just to retrieve the fallen souls. And one such saintly personality, Srila Prabhupada, with whom we are directly connected, it's our good fortune. Also, in Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 36, Queen Kunti prays, Shranvanti gayanti granantya bhikshashanah smaranti nandanti tavehitam janaha ta eva pashyantya chirena tavakah bhavapravaho paramam padambujam. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. In the purport it is mentioned, even if the Lord physically comes in front of us, one still has to know Him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only by devotional service, starting with hearing, etc., from the right sources, this has been stressed, from the right sources can it be done. And that right source is a saintly personality. Until and unless we are hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, from those who are in parampara, we are going to be misled. So academicians without devotional service cannot preach Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam for that matter. They can only teach. But what happens when one is not properly situated and they become teachers, they end up as cheaters. That is the difficulty. So there is this example which His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj once narrated. He met a person who claimed that he was a PhD in Srimad Bhagavatam in the US. And after Maharaj spoke, he gave his lecture, he heard that. He said that I am a PhD in this topic of Srimad Bhagavatam from so and so university. But he was standing holding his girlfriend in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And some of the things that he spoke, after hearing that, Maharaj told him, as far as I can see, you may be a PhD, but you are only in KG as far as the study of Srimad Bhagavatam is concerned. So see, this is the diametrically opposite viewpoint. Academically, therefore, the process of trying to teach the Shastras through the universities and schools and colleges does not work. It has to be taught in disciplic succession, in Guru Shishya Parampara. And the right place for that is the temple. Therefore, temple is not just a place of worship, but it is a university of spiritual education. A place where one can absorb, imbibe and assimilate this knowledge and transform one's life. This is the beauty. Yes, and what is the significance of actually worshipping and respecting the saintly personalities and approaching the Lord through them? It's a very simple example, illustratively, it can illustrate this point to us. We know that the tree gets its entire nourishment from the roots. Similarly, this entire creation, material and spiritual, both, the root is Krishna. Krishna is the root of the entire creation, of the material creation as well as the spiritual creation. And devotional service means watering the root of the tree. But how do you water the root? You don't take a shovel and start digging up the soil so that the root is revealed. And then once you see the root, then you start pouring water. Nobody does that. The simple process for watering the root is you just pour water at the base of the tree. And the soil at the base of the tree absorbs the water, and that water percolates down to the root. Exactly in the same way, the saintly personalities take a very humble position at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. They are at the base. And when we offer our respects, our services and our devotion to them, then through that process, our devotion to the Supreme Lord percolates down and reaches the Lord. So this is a simple simple illustration which explains how the necessity of a saintly person is there for us to progress in our devotional life. It is only through that medium we can actually reach and attain the Lord. And now we shall come to the last point, that is how these verses actually illustrate the importance of guest reception, receiving saintly personalities, and what is the power of those saintly personalities, what is the influence they can impart upon us, and what is the process of this. So, as we see, so many important sages came to Kurukshetra for the solar eclipse. It was a great opportunity to see them all at one place. It was very purifying, especially explained how to receive such great personalities, and this forms the basis of guest reception in the temple and at home, which is also a temple if lived in a Krishna conscious way. Our house becomes a temple if we utilize the house for Krishna conscious activities and lead a Krishna conscious life. So even the guests who come to our house, those guests who come to the temple, how to receive them is a very important part of a Vaishnava's life. The first thing is that what the people who had assembled there, they did, including Kṛṣṇa and Balarāma, they were setting an example. They stood up to receive the guests, showing respect. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, there is mention of how Prithu Maharaj receives the guests, and that can form the basis of guest reception in the entire ISKCON. The four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanat, Sananda and Sanātana, they arrived to see Maharaj Prithu. Prithu Maharaj stood up to receive them with the same urgency as the senses are attracted to the sense objects under influence of the modes. This is something we can easily understand. When you see gulab jamun or rasgulla, how enthusiastic one becomes to have that. So that attraction, power of attraction, is what is required in the heart of a devotee when he sees a saintly person. And he has to obviously reciprocate by his actions. So standing up. Prithu Maharaj was a saintly person and was attracted by the four Kumaras who were great saints, Yogeshwaras. Out of humility he bowed down. He took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the guests, Kumaras, and sprinkled it on his head. He set an example. Similarly, Krishna in the case of Sudama. Prithu glorified the Kumaras and he said, to have your darshan, which is very rare, I must have done some very pious activity. And he humbled himself. It is very interesting to see why one has to stand up. In the purports to the Mahabharata, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained, when a great personality approaches, the life air of the onlookers moves up. One is elevated. When one stands up, it returns. Otherwise, one's lifespan reduces. So all these Vedic actions have great significance behind them, which is sometimes revealed. Also in this regard, it's very important, it's very pertinent that you can see Romaharshan Sutta, he didn't stand up when Lord Balarāma came. And Balarāma, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just a saintly person, he decided to end his life just with a straw. Here we say that when a great personality comes and you don't stand up, your lifespan is reduced. And here he terminated the life then and there. So Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the bearers of Lord Vishnu. They carry the Lord in their hearts. Therefore, wherever they go, Lord Shiva, the foremost of Vaishnavas, and Lord Vishnu also go. When Vaishnavas and Brahmanas are pleased, the Lord is also pleased. Pleasing the Lord is ultimate. Only with purified senses can we see the Lord. So, in verse 10 of chapter 22 of this 4th canto, the purport, it clearly states how to receive guest at home. Whether one is rich or poor, one has to stand up, welcome, offer a sitting place, that is asan, even if it is a straw mat, offer a glass of water if you don't have very opulent items to offer, some sweet words if you don't have sufficient food items to offer, and if nothing, just shed tears and offer obeisances. So, it is something which is within the reach of everybody. Nobody can say, I don't have the means to do it. This way, we can please the guest and win their favor. That is, their blessings. And progress spiritually. In this regard, I would like to share a small experience which I had when I was in my school days. I was actually standing by the roadside and there was a cobbler. And I had gone there because my footwear broke and I had to mend it. So when this cobbler was sitting, as you know, that he didn't have a house, he was just sitting under the shade of a tree and he was engaged in his profession. And at that time somebody came to meet him, to see him. So this picture is distinctly embedded in my memory. I was surprised to see that he immediately stood up. He had no house to say, that's something that he had a house. He was just working under there and he was sleeping under the same tree. But immediately he stood up, he took a piece of cloth, he dusted the footpath and he spread the cloth on it and he welcomed his guest, come and have a seat. This picture is very clearly etched in my memory, and now when I was reading this Bhagavatam, the same thing has come up. So see, in practice also, it is not something which is alien, it is not something which is unheard of, it is not something which we don't see, but it is only something that we have to imbibe. Conversely, it is explained in the further verses. If one is opulent and one has a nice house where devotees are not allowed, that is not invited, then that house is nothing but a tree which is full of venomous snakes. Residents of such houses are compared to poisonous snakes. Chanakya Pandit says, of man and snake, the envious man is more dangerous than the snake. Because the snake can be charmed, but this envious man cannot be charmed with mantras. Materially, if a man is not very rich, he is not considered glorious. Spiritually, if he is simply attached to family, he is again not considered glorious. But saintly men go to the houses of even such people who are not glorious, either materially or spiritually, just to uplift them. If the master and servants offer water, seat, sweet words to such saintly persons, what to speak of opulent or simple food and other facilities, they earn their blessings and also make spiritual enlightenment. Traditionally in India, householders invite saintly people. Householders can provide, that is, maintain the renounced order, and they in turn spiritually enlighten and guide them. This way the society progresses materially and spiritually, that is, in a balanced way. This is actually Varnashram. So every person is spiritually aware, conscious and materially fulfilled. So I would like to stop here, and one simple point which is very pertinent and important here, which I would like to share, because for today's lecture I got the inspiration and some of the important points from His Grace Radhika Vallabh Prabhu. Just before he left, I approached him and I told him, and he gave me some very beautiful points, and most of the points which I have covered, I owe it to him. So I offer my humble obeisances to him and acknowledge my gratitude for whatever I have been able to speak and share with you. But one very nice point which he brought out and which I would like to share is, this entire Srimad Bhagavatam is nothing but guest reception, because Bhagavatam is the incarnation of Krishna, and the way in which Parikshit Maharaj is giving oral reception to that Bhagavatam, completely giving up thirst and hunger and sleep, and attentively hearing every word of, lapping it up, every word of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is nothing but receiving Krishna very gloriously and with great eagerness. So therefore it sums up the entire discussion that we had today of eagerness, the importance of meeting a saintly person, the influence that a saintly person can bestow upon us, the influence that the Lord can bestow upon us, and ultimately how we have to receive and reciprocate with that personality. So Parikshit Maharaj, by doing this, has set a wonderful example that this is how we have to have attentive listening. And it's also very important to note here that the cause of this Srimad Bhagavatam was, he put a dead snake around Shramik Rishi because he could not control his thirst. And on the other hand, when it was announced that he will be killed by a snake within 7 days, he chooses to sit and attentively hear Srimad Bhagavatam without drinking water. So the very reason for which it was started. So here, a very nice point which Radhika Vallabh Prabhu mentioned is, there are three natures in a human being. Constitutional nature, that is, we are eternal servants of the Lord. Psychophysical nature, that is Svabhava, one's natural inclination, one may be soft, one may be aggressive, etc. And circumstantial nature, that is, sometimes you act out of circumstances which is not your constitutional nature, which is not your psychophysical nature. One should not be judged by the circumstantial nature. So Parikshit Maharaj was wrongly judged by the circumstantial nature by Shringi, an immature Brahmana boy. That was the advent of Kali, and therefore the entire Srimad Bhagavatam was born because of that. And Parikshit Maharaj himself demonstrated how to get the solution to this problem by attentively hearing. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.